Welcome back to Sips and Civics, where we discuss current affairs, history, politics in a safe space where we all can enjoy a delicious sip. Today's sip is called the Rake. As always, the recipe will be in the captions. And in this space, we are able to relate to each other, no judgment. Everybody's here to relax and learn and receive information. Today, I want to talk about the United States Constitution. This is very important to me because so many people don't know the amendments to the Constitution. The original Bill of Rights had 13 amendments. And since those Bill of Rights, now we have a total of 27 amendments to our Constitution. One of the things I'm finding very bothersome to me is it's been brought to my attention that they're not teaching cursive writing in schools. Well, what bothers me about that is because we know major documents like when you buy a home, purchase a car, they want your signature, okay? And if you do not know how to write cursive, guess what? You can't read it. And what is one of the most important documents in our lives? The United States Constitution, to me, and it's written in what? Cursive. So it's going to be hard to read one of the most important documents that have 27 amendments that are there to preserve your rights. But if you don't know you're being violated, how can your rights be preserved? First, you got to know what those rights are. There's a lot intriguing things about the United States Constitution, and we're going to go over them. Now, this is going to be series one because of its 27, amendments to the Constitution, right? I want to ensure that we do some at a time. I don't want to throw them all into at once, okay? So let's get to it. Fun facts about the Constitution. It was signed on September 17th, 1787 in Philadelphia by 39 delegates. Only 39 delegates signed, although 55 were invited to the convention. George Washington was the first to sign. And James Madison is known as the father of the Constitution due to his extensive notes. He wrote a lot of notes, so that's why he received that nickname, okay? So every time I do one of these episodes on the Constitution, I'll give you some fun facts before we get into those amendments I wanted to discuss, okay? First Amendment, the very first amendment, right? You hear a lot of things about the First Amendment, freedom of speech, but it has a lot more details than just the freedom of speech, okay? There's a lot of other freedoms that's very important, so let's go there. Freedom of religion protects the right of individual religious beliefs and practices and prevents the government from establishing or favoring a specific religion. Freedom of expression protects the right to express ideas through speech and the press, which includes the right to receive information. Freedom of assembly protects the right to peacefully gather with a group to protest or for any other reason at all. Freedom to petition protects the right to request the government to fix problems, which we better know is called as lobbying. Now, I always go here with lobbying. A lot of people don't like lobbying because what it has become. You have the more money, you have more people you can pay as lobbyists for your interest to be held before an assembly, right? That's either in your state capital, your city councils, or in D.C., right? In the U.S. Capitol. However, it was designed by our founding fathers that if you had an issue, you can go before those you have elected and voice your opinions and get help in solving problems, okay? Or give advice to solving problems or speak your mind. Freedom from government interference stops the government from infringing upon American speech. It stops the government from, making sure that you are some type of way not able to say anything against them, right? You have a right. When people get upset, when they're talking about the president, they're talking about this, people have a right to say what they do not like. Because when you do that, what do you become? You become, right? An anarchy. Who wants to do that? Somebody has to be heard, okay? And that's why we do that. Freedom from discrimination prevents the use of nonverbal symbols to directly threaten, discriminate against, or harass an individual. Okay? You don't have to say something sometimes. You could use a symbol that's offensive, and that person knows right now, at that instant, that they're being harassed, or they feel they're being harassed. Okay? Like when people, have symbols of a noose. Okay? That's a symbol of what? Violence. So you can't do that either. Not just verbal, it could be simple, nonverbal. Freedom from property destruction stops the use of nonverbal symbols to intrude upon or destroy private property. You didn't speak it, right? But you took a bat and, or some type of weapon and damaged someone's private property. So that's one thing about our founding fathers. They tried to be pacific, not to leave anything unturned, okay? Second Amendment establishes protection of the individual's right to own and carry firearms primarily for self-defense. Established the acknowledgement, although a well-regulated militia is necessary for any government, okay? The right for the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay, we have a right to a free state, but you have a right to protect yourself. Okay? A lot of states have stand-down laws. Michigan is one of them. We're a stand-down law state. If someone gets within the parameter of you and you feel threatened, you have a right to defend yourself. Okay? The Second Amendment, sometimes people take it for, other reasons, right? But this is only to protect yourself, okay? It's not to intimidate or torture someone else. It's to protect yourself, which you have a right to do. Also, the Second Amendment is to protect yourself from the government, okay? That's also there. Third Amendment prohibits the government from forcing citizens to house soldiers in their homes during peaceful time without consent. Now, during wartime, soldiers may be quartered, but only if mandated by law. This amendment came because during the Revolutionary War, British soldiers would come to people's homes. They would take their food, lodge around, do different things at their home, and there was no protection against the militia doing that. So this is why the Third Amendment was made with that intent in mind. Fourth Amendment, protecting individuals from unreasonable search and seizures by the government and requires that warrants be issued only upon probable cause. This amendment makes it mandatory for the government to have a valid reason with judicial approval to intrude on a person's privacy, property, or liberty. This was a direct response to the British Crown's use of general warrants and writs of assistance in the colonial era. What other people don't realize, and I'm finding this out, when it comes to the Fourth Amendment, you have to see that warrant. You get to see that warrant. Just because they tell you to have a warrant, you have to look at it, and you have to demand to see it to make sure that it's properly signed, okay? That's why I'm trying to do my best to ensure that Americans know their rights. Fifth Amendment, very popular amendment, right? You always hear plead the fifth. So let's go into it. Right to remain silent, self-discrimination, better known as pleading the fifth. You cannot be forced to testify against yourself in a criminal case. Miranda rights, right? Miranda versus Arizona. Police must inform suspects in custody of their rights to remain silent and to have an attorney present. Not just to remain silent, but to have an attorney present. You do not have to talk until your attorney is there because you do not want to incriminate yourself. Why is that important? Because some things you may say when you think you're explaining yourself and you think it's clear may be detriment to yourself because now you have incriminated or said something that you didn't mean in one text and it's taken out of text. That's why a lawyer is there to make sure that you know your rights. Grand jury indictment. For serious federal crimes, you must be formally charged by a grand jury before a trial can proceed. Double jeopardy. Okay, a lot of people heard that, but they don't really know what it entails. It means the individual cannot be prosecuted multiple times for the same crime, okay, after a valid acquittal or conviction. The same crime. You can be convicted of something else, but you cannot be convicted of the same crime because this was in thought in mind of harassment. What if a case of someone doesn't like someone or someone has power over another person, they just keep bringing them to trial, keep bringing them to trial. We don't want that. And this is with tax dollars. And then harassment is a very serious offense to someone. So this is the reason why double jeopardy was put in place. Eminent domain, takings clause. If the government takes your private property for public use, example like take your property and they make a road or build a road or some type of blockage or building, okay? They must pay you a just and fair price, just compensation. So when you hear different amendments, you see that that amendment has entailed of various different other things. Things that are popular said that you only get to see that and you think that's it in its entirety is not true. So that's why we have to know them, because a lot of things may have happened to you and you didn't even know you were violated. Okay? So this is why this series is very important to me, because I want you to understand that laws are in place not to just protect you. They're also in place to ensure that everyone receives the same protections. That is the goal. Now, I'm saying it happens other times. That's why we have our courts, judicial systems to iron those things out. Okay? Thank you for being here today. I can enjoy the rest of this rake because, like I said, it's very delicious. We sip, enjoy, and listen. Until next time, have a great day. Bye.